Kingdom Death, Monster, is set in an ancient, brooding world of an esoteric nature, where light is sparse and horrible creatures lurk around every corner, ready to pounce on their prey at any single moment. Oh, and the twisted monsters you'll fight are there too. KDM is what managed to rip me away from the overwhelming darkness that surrounded me in the more recent years. When my motivation and passion for the hobby was at its lowest, and I'd all but given up on one of my favourite pastimes, let's explore why it's so damn good. The first reason. To me, Kingdom Death achieves what Warhammer sets out to do, but fails at in execution, largely because of the audience they aim to attract nowadays. Both have exceedingly grim worlds where living is miserable and everything is oh so bleak, but whereas Warhammer claims to be a mire of cosmic horrors and existential doom, it presents us with vibrant paint schemes, friendly skirmishes. KDM instead has its attitude and world baked into its very core. Its world seeps into every aspect of the experience it provides, and the immersion is unparalleled. Don't get me wrong, this thing is oppressive, but in an encouraging way, much like a slap from father might persuade me to make better choices in life. Let me set the scene. Lit by faint lantern light, you are torn from a deep slumber and awaken on a cold stone floor, the menacing grimaces of death masks glaring through you as their chiselled features press unapologetically into your fragile anatomy. The air is moist, stagnant, and thick with musk. Black ink runs freely from your eyelids, and a guttural roar can be heard in the distant dark, closely followed by rapid, heaving footsteps and a twisted, unnatural chuckle. A large, pale thing slowly creeps forward on all fours, the sickly yellow glow of your soul light source illuminating its matted hide and crimson-stained claws. You can see it now, the piercing red orbs of its lion-like features clearly surveying your group. You must survive. You've now been thrust into the first encounter of Kingdom Death. Taken from the introductory pages of the game manual, KDM is filled with similar flavour text and scenarios. Through a combination of risk and experimentation, you and your flock may yet survive the perils that await you. This feeling of being plunged straight into the deep end is one of the many emotions that are prevalent throughout the game cycle, in order to keep your ego in check just when you think you have a quarry all figured out. You will die, your allies will die, and often, brave ventures into lands beyond in search of valuable resources will simply leave you a party less of people within your camp. Number 2. The gameplay. Taken from the rulebook, Monster is a game about the fragility of human life, the ferocity of the human spirit, and the wonder of exploration. The constant need to search, but also survive, works incredibly well as the primary loot, as you want to collect and craft as many things as you can to help you in your quest for continued survival. You are encouraged to hunt the same type of creature multiple times over and effectively master their encounter, so that in turn you can become even stronger. But with every action comes an element of risk. In this way, there's a soft time limit imposed. You can play it safe and find yourselves under-equipped for a new fight, or take a risk that could net you bonus rewards, at the cost of losing some or all of your fighters. Some of the most powerful boons you can discover may cause a survivor to rapidly age and simply cease to exist. So the question is, when do you use the utility that they provide? There are also numerous times where, instead of preying upon the inhabitants of the land as you are accustomed to, a mysterious new abomination will come to find you. It could be as you're on your way to a run-of-the-mill hunt, or as you arrive back to the relative safety of your settlement, when you feel the most content and secure. The Butcher, for instance, is an infamous nemesis within the community that you'll encounter somewhat early on, and let me tell you, he's gonna rock your world all the way to Kicktown, and your blood will paint the road the entire way there. The inhabitants of the land of Kingdom Death are numerous, and there is a good portion still yet to come in further expansions, but to name a few for the moment, we have our glorious time chicken, the Phoenix, a being who shimmers with countless colours and has a fabulous moustache, the Sunstalker, who resembles a half-shark, half-broccoli hybrid, the Manhunter, one of the few monsters who actually speak, and throws wrestling moves around like it's nothing. We also have Slenderman. No, not some Temu knockoff. An actual, real Slenderman to haunt your dreams and infect your consciousness. The third reason, body horror and psychological deterioration, is another one of the themes that KDM knocks out of the park and affects gameplay in meaningful and flavourful ways. As you play and fight to survive, your best survivor might suddenly find themselves with a broken ribcage, a missing eye, or perhaps a flavour of mental illness that leads them to think they're invincible. Maybe they even become ageless, unable to die from old age and forever resigned to fight until one day they perish or indeed vanish from your roster. Suddenly, a weapon that once seemed like a literal double-edged blade can turn into a staple of your kit in an instant. 99% of the time, these statuses are also permanent, which can be an incredibly good or bad thing, depending on how inventive you're feeling. I can see a bit of a likeness to Fear and Hunger in a way. As a game for adults, there's very little hand-holding, and a lot of your success will come from trial and error, and discovering how to triumph by yourself. Much like the very survivors you take control over, you will need determination and guile in order to maximise your chances of victory. Uncovering the mystery that envelops each aspect of the game is one of the most satisfying things about it, and I highly recommend going in blind for the best and most harrowing experience. Number 4. The story is amazing, but admittedly, this is where things get a bit complicated. There's a boatload of information provided by the core rulebook and the expansions, but a lot of the lore for Kingdom Death is either unclear, confusing, or unfinalised. There's a lot of concepts that are alien, or concepts that we already know, but are used in a completely different way. Time, for example. We have years, months, weeks, and other smaller denominations, but in KDM, there are only lantern years, the time it takes for one lantern at the Lantern Horde to die out. The exact length is unknown, and can vary in the wider lore. I think you can see how this might get confusing. But take the white lion that you fought in your first encounter. He's not just a lion. He's able to think as we are. In fact, when he saw us, he thought we were beautiful. They wanted to be closer to us, wanted to be us. He wanted to play, in the hope of becoming as we are. Now take a closer look at his front paws. What do you see? Did they used to be one of us? You can see how many questions might arise as you explore further and encounter more bizarre animals. And that's just the first encounter monster. Each creature has some twisted undertone as to why it does what it does. Some are more light-hearted than others, but all are equally interesting and fitting for the setting. Little details can tell you a lot, and the majority of the time, these little things you notice provide a lot of information. The main story you'll derive as you play is that of your settlement and its inhabitants. How well are you currently surviving? Was there a plague that left half of your settlement bedridden? Did only one survivor return from a hunting party, with their mind shattered? A tale will be spun by yourself or your group, and I believe that, for the moment at least, is what should be focused on. The chronicle of your time within the lands of Kingdom Death, what events occurred, and how you ultimately won, or failed to reach the end goal of lasting for usually 30 lantern years. 5. Unique tastes. One of the things that should be noted is that Adam Poots, this guy, doesn't shy away from showing people's naughty bits. No, don't laugh. We're all adults here. We don't laugh at that kind of stuff anymore. Both survivors and monsters can appear unclothed, sometimes with their intimate parts we're usually familiar with being warped and presented in an all-new way. The same goes for regular body parts, however. Take the stomach, a fairly innocent little fella. How about we make him into a giant maw instead? Oh, and let's make it so that he can swallow people whole. This aspect of KDM seems to be fairly controversial depending on who you ask. But as a well-adjusted and reasonable grown-up, I'm sure that you can come to your own conclusion and decide upon what level of adultness is suitable for you. Aside from the immense sense of immersion and brilliant gameplay, the quality and style of the miniatures produced by Team Death are amazing. For me, I think it was a breath of fresh air amongst the sea of space marines and humanoid aliens I'd seen on an almost daily basis for the past decade. If you want to get into Kingdom Death, I'd actually recommend holding off making any purchases other than for the simulator. The price for the core set is pretty prohibitive, But if you want to check it out digitally, you can pick up the full game for a fraction of the cost. This is actually how I play. There's a creator by the name of A Warm, Awful Feeling who covers a lot of the simulator, so be sure to check her out if you want to know more before taking your own look. If you're looking for an opportunity to prove yourself, or embark on a journey filled with dangers to attempt to emerge victorious, this is the game you need on your shelf. So, take the dive, and maybe I'll see you wandering the plane of stone faces. I hope you don't have any good loot on you.